Now, a lot of beginner DJs learn how to mix two songs together, but then they realize they have no idea how to build an actual DJ set. How many tracks do you need? What order do they go in? Should the energy keep rising? And how do you make the whole set feel smooth and professional? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build your first mini DJ set as a beginner using just 5 tracks. My name is Blakey, I'm a DMC champion, and I've helped thousands of DJs level up through my online courses and YouTube tutorials. So let's get into it. Okay, so for today's video, the setup is quite simple. We've got the DDJ Flex 4 controller from Pioneer DJ, which in my opinion is the best beginner DJ controller on the market. We have a pair of headphones, and we're going to be using these to cue up the next song. And I have the Rekordbox DJ software on my laptop, which comes for free with the DDJ Flex 4. And by the way, if you're not sure what equipment you need as a beginner DJ, I've put together this free beginner DJ setup guide, which shows you exactly what you need and how everything connects. If you'd like to download it for free, the link is in the description. Now, most beginner DJs actually overcomplicate their first set. They end up choosing too many tracks, which just becomes overwhelming and confusing. They try and mix multiple genres too early. They try advanced transitions with loops and too many effects. And they even start with music that's too high energy for the start of a DJ set. We are going to be avoiding all of those mistakes. We're going to be keeping things super simple so that you can follow along as a beginner. Your first DJ set doesn't actually need to impress anyone. It just needs to sound clean and professional. It's important that we just stick with one genre for this beginner set, and I'm going with house music. Because it has good tempo consistency, the transitions can be more subtle and simple, and it's really easy to manage the energy of a DJ set with house music because there are so many different styles. You can do this with any genre you like, but I'm choosing house because it will make it easier for you as a beginner DJ. Now, the next thing we need to do is pick the music that we're going to be using for this mini set. Now, the 5 tracks that I'm going to pick, I am actually going to choose from Beatport inside Rekordbox. And you can see the Beatport logo on the left-hand side of the Rekordbox software right here. So let's go into Beatport. And you can see right here, my Beatport account is already logged in. If you're not logged in, you just need to click the login button, which will be here. And then once you do, you'll get access to all of your own playlists, plus all of the genres and playlists that are already inside Beatport. And this is going to make choosing your 5 tracks super easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the genres drop-down menu, scroll down to house, which is right here, open up that drop-down menu, and now we have 2 options. You can either click here to go into the top 100 house tracks inside Beatport. This is a great way of finding new house music that has already got the stamp of approval from other Beatport users. And your other option is to open up the playlists drop-down menu here. You can open up the window here so you can see everything. And this is a list of pre-made playlists inside Beatport with a range of different styles. So this playlist here is all about classic house tracks. This playlist here is more high energy, hyped house music. And then down here, you've got some dance floor essentials. So these playlists are a great way of searching through different styles of house music just to mix up your selection. I always go into the top 100 of my chosen genre, and I have found so many good tracks doing this inside Beatport. So I highly recommend you spend some time doing the same thing and making sure that you're picking music that you actually like. That's super important. The next thing we need to do is make our own playlist in Rekordbox so that we can start dragging music from Beatport into our own playlist. So to do that, let's click on the playlist icon here, click on playlists, and then you've got this plus icon here. Click that, and now we've got a brand new playlist, and you can call this whatever you like. At this point, what I recommend doing is opening up the playlist palettes window, which is right here. If you don't see this window, just click on this icon, and it will open and close the playlist palettes. We can now drag the playlist we just made into the playlist palette window, and this means that that playlist will always be visible even when we're searching through Beatport. So let's take that playlist and drag it over to one of these blank lists. You can see right here, I already have another playlist called Beginner House Set loaded into the playlist palettes. And now, once you go back to Beatport, you can start dragging tracks from the Beatport Top 100 into your new House Tracks playlist. This makes managing playlists in Rekordbox so much cleaner and so much easier. So now I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes listening through some music on Beatport, and I'm going to pick my 5 tracks for this mix. And crucially, I'm going to be picking tracks that are not all the same style and not all the same energy. I will explain this more in a moment, but it's important to have tracks that have different energies so that your set doesn't sound monotonous and carry the same vibe consistently. You want things to go up and then you want to bring them down. And this is why you need to pick tracks based on their energy. So I'm going to pick my 5 tracks and I will play them to you in a moment. And then we'll talk more about the energy of each track and then how we structure this set. Okay, so this right here is my final 5-track playlist for this mini set. So now let's take a listen through each one of these tracks and we can start to figure out and determine the energy level of each track, which is going to help us construct our set. Now over in Rekordbox, you can see that I've got the rating column visible. And the rating column allows you to give each track anywhere between 1 and 5 stars. If you don't see this rating column, all you need to do is right click on these columns here and then make sure that rating is checked. That way, you'll be able to see this rating column and then you can click on one of these stars to give a track a rating. So now the top track is rated 3 stars. Now we are not actually rating these tracks by how good they are. We're going to be rating them by the energy level, with 5 being super high energy and 1 being a very chilled track. And this is going to help us determine the order of the tracks that we play so that we can manage the energy on the dance floor. If you just play one style of house music, which is the same energy throughout, your set is going to sound dull and monotonous. And I find using the energy rating column in Rekordbox is the best way to assign an energy level to a track. Okay, now let's listen to track number 1 and we're going to assign an energy rating based on how energetic I feel the track is. So it's got a nice rolling vibe, this track. A really nice high energy bass line. But I wouldn't say it's like crazy high energy. So I'm going to rate this one a 3 on the energy scale. And to do that, I'm going to click on the 3rd star right here. So now that track is rated as a 3 for energy. Let's take a listen to track number 2. So this has got a nice vocal. So I would say this track is way higher energy than the last one. It's got really uplifting notes and a really nice vocal. So I'm going to rate this one number 4 in terms of energy. So let's click the 4th star right here to rate that one 4. Okay, track number 3. Immediately, this one feels like a 3 again. It's got good energy, but it's not like a hands in the air type of track. So I'm going to rate this one 3 again. So let's click the 3rd star and that's done. Okay, track number 4. This feels like a 3 again. I would say that most house music is probably going to sit at around 3. But 3 is still really high energy enough to keep a dance floor moving and keep the crowd happy. For me personally, the majority of a house music set that I'm going to play is going to sit around that 3 range, but you still are going to want to be able to push the energy up to a 4 or even a 5, or even release tension by bringing it down to a 2. I would reserve energy tracks that I rate as 1 for like the opening of a night or a warm-up set. But this to me is a 3. So let's rate this 3 inside Rekordbox. Okay, let's listen to track number 5. I think this one probably sits at number 2. I really like this track, but it feels to me like it's a real kind of dance floor roller, and it's going to keep the crowd engaged, but it's not going to bring the energy up too much. A track with an energy level of 2 is still going to be a super useful track in your DJ set. And actually, I think I'm going to start my mini set in this video with this track because it's high energy enough to still bring a vibe, but it gives me somewhere to go in the set for the next 1 or 2 tracks that I play. So let's rate this a 2 inside Rekordbox. Okay, so now I've chosen the order of my tracks. We're going to start with Brighter Days, which was rated at number 2 in terms of energy. This is the opener. It should be warm, it should have groove, but it shouldn't be too aggressive, and it should give us room to build the rest of our set. For track number 2, I'm going with Q Drop, and I've rated this an energy level of 3. This gives us a slightly bigger groove, a little bit of vocal presence, and it's just that slight lift in energy that you need that just says, okay, now we're moving. Track number 3 is Another Night, and this is also rated at 3 stars. This is now about maintaining that vibe, and this is super important. A common beginner DJ mistake is to constantly try and bring the energy up and up. And that's just not something that you can sustain for an hour or 2 hour or a set even longer than that. Sometimes maintaining the energy is the smart thing to do, and that's what we're going to do here. This will keep things energetic and interesting without us peaking too early. Now, track number 4, I'm going for this track called I'm Watching You. And this is where we introduce a higher energy track with an energy rating of 4. This is the peak track of this specific set, and this is the biggest moment. It has some really uplifting notes and chords, a great melody, and a really high energy sing-along vocal. This is going to be the payoff moment of this set. And then finally, we're going to be bringing the energy down slightly with Space Pump, which I've rated as a 3 on the energy scale. And this should be thought of as a controlled landing after the peak. This is the bit that beginners don't often understand. You don't need every DJ set to end at maximum chaos. A slightly more groove-based closer can just feel and sound more professional, and it will feel more intentional. We're starting with a build, moving into a peak, and then a slight release with our last track. Now, something super important to point out before I show you the full mix is that you do not have to mix quite as fast as I will be during this set. The reason I've chosen to move through the song slightly quicker than I usually would is to make sure that this video doesn't get too long. If I let each one of these 5 tracks play for 3 or 4 minutes, then this video would just be too long. I wanted to show you how to build a mini DJ set in the quickest way possible, but if you find that I'm mixing these tracks too quickly, then all you need to do when you build your mini set is let the tracks breathe for a little bit longer. And really, that's the beauty of DJing. Everybody has their own style. Everybody has their own way of doing things. So if you want to take the exact same techniques that I'm teaching you in this video, but let the music breathe a bit more, then go ahead. You could even take the same skills I'm teaching you and mix a totally different genre of music. You might want to mix techno, you might want to mix trance, and you might want to mix drum and bass. Every single technique I teach you in this video is easily transferable to any other genre of music. And by the way, if you're a beginner DJ and you would like a clear step-by-step path that shows you exactly what to focus on first as a beginner DJ without getting overwhelmed, then you should check out my Ultimate Beginner DJ course, which is linked in the description. I've spent the last year asking thousands of beginner DJs exactly what they're struggling with and exactly what they need my help with. And this course was built to fix all of the problems that they had. It's been designed to take you from feeling confused and overwhelmed to confidently understanding your controller and mixing your own DJ sets properly. If you'd like to check it out, then just click the first link in the description. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is prep the music that we're going to be using for this mix. And I'm going to keep this super simple. The only thing I recommend doing is setting 1 or 2 hot cues on each of the tracks so that you have a part of the track that you can trigger and mix from instantly by pressing a hot cue pad. Now for track number 1, we're going to be starting the mix with this track from the very beginning. So I'm not going to set any hot cues on that track. I'm just going to press play right at the start. But what I am going to do is I'm going to increase the tempo of this track because this track is 126 BPM and I actually want the tempo for this mix to be a bit higher. So I'm going to move the tempo slider of this track to 130. And every track I play in this mix is going to be at 130 BPM, which will give this set a more energetic feel because it's a little bit quicker. Now the next track on the left deck, I'm going to be mixing this track in from the very first kick drum. And I've set a hot cue on the first kick drum right here. Take a listen. Now, if you've never set a hot cue before, this is how it works. So you can see that we've got this hot cue set because the pad is lit up. Now you can actually delete it directly from the controller by holding Shift and then pressing that hot cue. So now there are no hot cues set at all. So now let's reset that hot cue so that you can see how it works. I'm going to move the jog wheel And we want to get this playhead position here to right at the beginning of that first kick drum. And then once that playhead position is there, all you need to do is make sure you're in the hot cue pad mode. You can see right here that this pad is lit up and it says hot cue. That means we're in the hot cue pad mode. And now we can set a hot cue by pressing any one of these empty hot cue slots. So now that hot cue is set. And now every time I press that hot cue, the track is going to start playing from that position. Okay, the next track in the mix is called Another Night. And I have one hot cue set on this track, and I'm actually going to mix this track in from this breakdown section here, which is in the middle of the track. Let's take a listen to where this hot cue is set. So this is called the breakdown section of the track. So this is where the drums have come out of the track. And this is the release section of this track. The tension has been released, and in a moment, it's going to build up into another drop. Here comes the drop. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, the reason I've set this hot cue on the breakdown section here is because I am going to start mixing this track in when the other track also goes into a breakdown. And I'm going to do a very simple mix between the two tracks that will be clean and subtle. One thing you don't ever want to do as a DJ is you don't want a breakdown section to be playing over a main section. You only ever want to line up two main sections or two breakdowns. And the easiest way of doing this is setting a hot cue on the breakdown of your track and then mixing this breakdown section in during the breakdown section of this track. And you will see how clean that sounds in a moment when I show you the full mix. Okay, the next track that we're going to be mixing in, this one's very simple. I'm going to start mixing this track in from the first kick drum. So I have set the first hot cue at the first kick drum of the track. Let's take a listen. Now, most of the time, you're probably going to be mixing your tracks in from the first kick drum. So it's always a good idea to set the first hot cue on any track to the first kick drum of the song. So this mix is going to be super straightforward. We're mixing in from the first kick drum. Okay, now the final track in the mix, I'm actually going to start mixing this in when the first big kick drum comes in. Now let's go back to the very beginning of this track and take a listen to what it sounds like from the very start of the song. It does start with a kick drum, but it's a much lighter kick drum than the one that we're going to be actually mixing in from. So that kick drum would be totally fine to mix in from, but I'm actually going to be mixing in from the big kick drum that starts a little bit further into the track. Take a listen. So this is also when the bass line comes in. So that's where I've set my hot cue on this track, and that's where I'm going to start mixing in from. Now, when you're creating your first beginner DJ set, I recommend keeping your prep to a minimum. And there is one simple reason for that, and that is just to stop yourself getting overwhelmed. Building this DJ set is really all about how to pick tracks, control the energy, and create a mix of music which makes sense and tells a story and takes you on a journey. That's why I only recommend setting some hot cues on your tracks at this stage. Okay, so now let's take a listen to this mini DJ set. This is not about flashy tricks. At this beginner stage, this is all about keeping things simple, controlling the energy, and building a set that sounds coherent. We're going to be using some basic EQ, just using the bass EQs here. I will use a tiny bit of the reverb effect at 1 or 2 points in this mix. But the key thing is that everything is kept simple, and it's really all about the music in this set. At this beginner stage, it's not about impressing anyone, it's just about sounding clean and professional. So let's take a listen.
your guardian angel, trust in me. So many times I've been watching you, and now I'm in love with you. So many times I'm watching you, and now I fell in love with you. So many times, so many times, so many times I'm watching you, and now I fell in love with you. So many times, so many times. Alright, so many times I'm watching you, and now I fell in love with you. So many times, so many
Work that body, make sure you don't hurt nobody. Get wild and lose your mind. Take this thing into overtime. Hey DJ, MCD gon' run it up. Come on, y'all, get on the road. So take that.
Now, if you're a beginner DJ and you want to take a deep dive into exactly how to learn DJing properly from the start, then I recommend you check out this video right here, which will show you everything you need to know to start learning to DJ properly in 2026. Hundreds of thousands of people have watched this video, and it's got some amazing comments from people who have always wanted to get into DJing, and this is the video that inspired them.